Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mia for those of you who are new, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you guys how to sew yet another project. And what we're going to be learning to sew today is a mini coin pouch, which is so cute, with hardware, learning how to sew a label in, and also showing you how to sew the zipper. Super cute. And to go along with this coin pouch, I'm also going to be showing you guys how to sew a matching key fob wristlet. So if you're interested in learning how to sew these two things, maybe it's for a gift or it's for yourself or for your small business, then keep watching and I'll show you exactly how to make this. But before we begin, I wanted to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Skillshare. If you guys have been watching the channel for a long time, you will have known that I've worked a lot with Skillshare and I truly love their platform as a fellow creative and small business owner myself. If you're unfamiliar with what Skillshare is, they are the largest online learning community built for creatives and small business owners and entrepreneurs and hobby girls. They have thousands of classes led by industry experts that range from graphic designers, professional illustrators, and successful entrepreneurs, so you're bound to find a class on something that you're interested in. What I really love about the Skillshare platform is I love how each class is broken down into smaller sections. I've talked about this a lot, but I am somebody who does not have a lot of time to spend on external projects and fun things, and Skillshare does exactly that by breaking the classes down into smaller, more manageable sections, which means I can go at my own pace and have fun learning something creative and creatively charging my soul, which is super good and super fun, especially during the holiday season when I have just a little bit more time to myself and end up picking up a new hobby or two. One class that's really helped me when it comes to sewing zippers, because I had such a difficult time learning how to sew zippers when I was originally launching zippered pouches for my small business. As a self-taught sewer, I've done a lot of research on my own about sewing and how to actually do certain skills. One of the classes that has really helped me expand on my base sewing skills is the Foundational Sewing Skills by Robin Burgess. I love that she goes over each step and really shows you, but also explains it to you at the same time. And the visuals and the way that she just teaches everything is like scratching my brain in the right way. So if you're interested in trying out sewing or wanting to expand your sewing skills, then Skillshare actually has a deal for November. The first 500 people to use my link or scan the QR code here on the screen will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare and 20% off their first payment with Skillshare. So if you've been needing a sign to take up a new hobby or learn a little bit more about the hobby that you're interested in right now, then definitely check out Skillshare. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And now let's get into the tutorial. Now we are going to sew up the mini coin pouch. So we're going to start off by doing the same steps as the Kindle and book sleeve. We are going to score the 2 panels because these are going to be quilted. We're going to work on this little tab here. So how I make this is I usually use the same fabric as the outer panels, and I cut a 2-inch by however long. I would say the minimum length would be about 4 inches. That way you have enough room here to sew it in. So 2 inches, and what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half first. Now, as you can see, I'm using one of the raw edges. This is because these mini pouches can be made with scraps. You really don't need a lot of fabric for these, and they're super fast and quick and easy to make up. So the reason why I can use this raw edge is because we're going to be folding this inward and you won't see it. So we can use this scrap piece. So you fold it into the center line, and then what you're going to do is you are going to fold this into the middle, and I'm going to just push down with my fingers. And then I'm going to do the same to the other side. I'm going to fold the edge into the middle line, and I'm going to push it down with my fingers. You could also use a heat press to do this as well. And then once they're both folded towards the middle, you're going to fold it in half again, like so. And then we are going to clip it shut, and I'll show you exactly how we're going to sew this. It's super easy to make these tabs, and if you cut a long enough strip, you can make multiple of these if you're going to be making more than one coin pouch. So really, this project does not need a lot of fabric. You can utilize all of your scraps for this. Okay, so now that our tab is prepped and we also have the scored lines of our outer panels, you're going to take your batting that again is cut wider on all sides than your panel, and we're going to take this to the sewing machine. Before we begin sewing the quilting lines, we are going to adjust this. We are going to make this smaller. I'm going to do about 1 inch. I think that should be good enough for these lines because it's such a small panel. We don't want to make it 2 inches because there will be literally no quilted lines. If you wanted to even make it like 5/8 of an inch, you could do that too, but you would have to do way more lines. I think that 1 inch is going to be perfect. For this, I think I'm going to do my stitch length at about 3.5 to 4. Once you have your X quilted, now you go ahead and follow these lines and do the rest of it. Your panel should look a little something like this. Once you're finished, go ahead and quilt the other panel. Once your panels are finished, you're gonna go ahead and sew your little strap. So we're gonna start by sewing on the edge that is open. So we're gonna sew along this edge first. You don't have to backstitch when you start and stop because you're gonna be cutting these into smaller pieces and sewing them into the pouch, so it will be secure anyway. This can be a little bit tricky because it is so skinny. So just take your time and go slow. Now that this edge is all sewn, we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And there you go, your pull tab is prepped. All right, so trim off the excess batting. And for this panel, I'm not going to be sewing a label on the front, but instead I'm going to be using one of these little bows. This I got from Fabricland, but you can get these on Amazon. I will link both of them if I can find the one from Fabricland, and I'll find something similar on Amazon to link down below. But we are going to sew this on the panel first before we sew the zippers on, and I'm going to sew it about here. If you want a more exact measurement, you can actually just fold this panel in half, use your nail to make a little indent, and then you will see where the halfway mark is. It is right about here, and that is where I will sew my bow on, and I will just go forward, backward a few times to make sure it's all snug. Once your bow is all sewn in, you can go ahead and trim your thread first. And they're just so adorable. I love the way that adding a bow makes it look. So again, I like my zippers to face a certain way. So we are going to have the open end facing the left or pointing towards the left. We are going to take the right side of the outer panel and we are going to pin or clip your zipper to the top edge, matching both of the top edges together. Now we are going to take one of our inner panels, and as you can see, this one does have a right side and a wrong side, so we are going to put right sides together and clip and match up those edges. And we're going to sew along this line at our sewing machine. Now, just like the book sleeve, we are going to close that zipper while we do our top stitch. We are going to pull it nice and taut, and we are going to try to sew as close to this edge as possible. And there we have a beautiful top stitch, keeping all of our fabric in place. I'm going to trim these inner threads on this mini pouch because sometimes when we flip this right side out, the inside you can kind of see these and it's harder to cut them once it's sewn together. So I'm going to do it while it's flat and just get rid of all these extra threads. I'm using these precise Fiskars scissors that I got from Michaels, which are one of my favorite scissors. And we're going to cut these ones off as well. So we are going to take our strip that we sewed and we're going to trim this down to about 2 inches. So I'm just going to use my rotary blade and I'm going to trim this to 2 inches. It doesn't have to be exact, just approximately. Then we're going to take this swivel lobster clasp that I got off of Amazon, and we are going to put the clasp through like this, and we're going to fold it back like this. So it's going to be in here like this, And I'm just gonna clip it to keep it like this for now. We're gonna come back to this in a second. We're gonna take our pouch, we're gonna open it up like this. And we are going to now open up the zipper to about 1/3 of the way closed. And we're gonna do the same thing like we did for the Kindle and book sleeve. We're gonna match up these edges and then we are going to clip them like so. Then we are going to clip them in place and the same thing on the other side. Now, in order to make this come out like this, we have to put the lobster clasp inside like this. And I want this to be on the side where the zipper is closed. So I'm gonna find where the zipper is. Where is it? It's here. So when we close the zipper, it's going to be on this side. So I'm gonna find where the zipper teeth are very flat here, and this is the side that I'm gonna put my little pull tab on. We're gonna take this off. And I'm going to stick it in here. You want to leave a good amount out, and you want to put it just maybe I would say 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch down from the zipper. And I'm going to put it in here and I'm going to clip it like that so it doesn't move. Now I also have these little seam labels that I got for my business, and I'm also just going to put one of these seam labels in here as well. I do it again about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch down from there, and I like to have this sticking out to make sure that it's not going to fall out when I do flip it right side out. Clip that. And then we're just gonna go ahead and clip the rest of everything so it doesn't move around when we sew. We need to leave an opening here so you can mark it with a pencil, a fabric marker, or you can just do like that. What I like to do is add 2 clips where the opening is, and then I like to add 1 clip on the side and 1 more clip on the side. Now we have a lot of bulk in this. It has a lot of things on this side. So you want to go really slow. You want to make sure you're using a heavy weight needle, and you also want to make sure that you're going very slow over the zippers and all of this bulkiness here. So let's bring this to the sewing machine and let's sew it together. While sewing over the edge, when you get to the tab and the logo, if you have one, you want to make sure that you're back stitching maybe 1 or 2 times over the tab so that when it's attached to your keys or the person you're gifting it to's keys, it doesn't fall off. So now we are going to trim off the bulk. Again, making sure you don't get too close to the stitches. Just trim off all of this extra bulk. You can cut off the corners if you have space, and the zipper. And now we are going to flip this right side out. It's a smaller piece, so sometimes it's a bit tricky. Just be gentle and don't want to rip any of your stitches. Push out your corners. For this, you might want to use a little corner tool if your finger can't really reach in there. And then all that's left to do is close up the hole once you poke out the liner corners as well, because I'm going to push any of the loose threads and raw edges inside, and I'm going to pull it really taut, and then I'm just going to sew that top stitch shut. I would definitely suggest using a color closer to this, but this is just going to be for me, so I don't care that much. So just trim off any of the little flyaway threads to make it as clean as possible. And then once you do that, you just put it back in. Make sure you can push the corners in. And there you go. You have a cute little coin pouch. So adorable, and the cutest little gift, stocking stuffer. And it's Christmas. How cute. Last but not least, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this cute keychain fob wristlet. I've made so many of these. These were actually one of the first things I learned how to sew when I started learning about 2.5 years ago. I have adjusted this to fit the style that I like the best. So I actually use batting for these, and it makes it more thick and plush, and I find that it wears down a lot nicer and it lasts much longer than the ones with just fusible interfacing. The steps are the same if you want to use interfacing. The only thing is you just have to fuse it to the panel when we're doing it instead of folding it in right away. So you're going to take your 4" by 12" panel, and I'm going to fold it down the middle so I can find where the midpoint is. This honestly takes less than 5 minutes. You're just gonna find the midpoint. And now this batting is approximately 2 inches by 12 inches. You don't have to be super specific. You just have to make sure that when you fold this in, it is 1 inch if you're using a 1" fob hardware. I'm using this midpoint line on the side to fold in my edges. So I'm just going to eyeball that, and then I'm just going to clip that here. This is a bit tricky, but I'm going to clip that here so I know how much to fold this into. And then once I do that, I am then going to fold it once more into itself. And I'm going to make sure that it's 1 inch, and it is. Then I'm going to clip this edge, and I'm also going to clip this edge, making sure it's 1 inch, and it is. And then I can go in and clip the middle part. You have to kind of play around with it a little bit and make sure that nothing's really poking out. Once you do that, you're basically ready to sew this up, and you're almost done already. So you're gonna start by sewing the open edge first, and you're just gonna sew right along this line. And I like to leave about 1/4 inch. So I line it up with the outermost edge on the outer edge of my foot. I don't backstitch because I'm gonna sew the ends together once we're finished. And then you just sew a straight line. Now that this edge is done, we're gonna go ahead and do the other side. Once both edges are done, I'm going to trim off this little piece. So you're going to want to fold it in half and have the ends meet here. Then you're going to want to put your label right so the edges are in line. Then you're going to take your fob piece and put it on and see if when you put it down, it will block the logo. So see how it blocks the end of my logo? I'm going to bring my logo down just a little bit, and now this is better. So I am going to sew, all of this is going to be covered by the fob. So I'm going to sew a line just about here, and I'm just going to use 1 clip up here to keep everything in line so that I don't shift anything when I'm sewing. This is very thick, so again, be very slow and make sure you're using a heavyweight needle for this. So this is all sewn. If there are any little threads poking out, you want to trim them now because it will be kind of difficult to trim them once you put the key fob on. So I'm just trimming any of these threads so that you can't see them when we put the fob on. You're going to need one of these key fob pressers, or you can use a pair of pliers. If you're using pliers, maybe be careful because you can dent this and then it will be damaged. So I would say to be careful, but this tool is like maybe $13, and if you're going to be making a lot of these, then definitely invest in this because it's super helpful. So what you're going to do is I like to actually put the key fob in the tool first so that I don't have to have this move around, and then I'm going to put this on my key fob, and I'm going to make sure that the teeth, I'm going to see how I can show you this, that the teeth are like this on the fob, and I'm going to try to align it as best as I can. And then you're going to take it and you're going to squish down, not too hard and not too soft. You want to make sure that it's really in there because those teeth are what is going to keep this key fob together. And then there you go. Your new key fob is all done, and this took literally less than 5 minutes. My favorite part about the key fobs and the wristlet is you can make them match, and you can actually attach them to each other and give them as a gift together. And I just think that it's super cute. Maybe find hardware that actually matches, but other than that, I think this is such a cute and easy gift or a stocking stuffer for somebody for Christmas.